Apples have long been considered a symbol of health. Eat an apple a day and you will not need a doctor, says an old proverb. However, modern science, medical observations, and real-life experiences are increasingly showing that even this perfect fruit can potentially cause harm. In this video, we will look at 10 concerning facts about why apples are not as simple and harmless as they might seem. This video is going to be incredibly informative and helpful. If you want to take control of your health like a pro, give it a like, and let's get started. Problem 1. Apples are among the leading fruits contaminated with pesticides in the United States and lose their nutritional value during long-term storage. According to the most recent data from the year 2024, published in the annual report by the Environmental Working Group, more than 90% of apples sampled from supermarket shelves across the United States contained residues of at least one type of pesticide. In some cases, specialists detected traces of up to 47 different chemical compounds on a single piece of fruit. This consistently places apples on the dirty dozen list, a ranking of the most contaminated fruits and vegetables available for widespread consumption. A study conducted by the College of Agricultural, Human, and Natural Resource Sciences at Washington State University in 2023 revealed that even after thorough rinsing under running water and peeling, up to 17% of synthetic substances remain in the pulp. Particularly persistent were organophosphates, compounds that can negatively affect the liver, kidneys, and endocrine system when accumulated in the body over time. These substances can interfere with the liver's enzymatic activity, slowing down the elimination of toxins and increase the burden on the kidneys, especially in older individuals. Dr. Melissa Gardner, a gastroenterologist based in Houston, shared with the medical platform American Nutrition Review the case of her 62-year-old patient, David Walsh. For 1 year, he ate 2 apples every day, believing it to be a healthy habit. However, he began experiencing chronic fatigue, headaches, and discomfort in the upper right side of his abdomen. Medical tests showed elevated liver enzyme levels, and further investigation revealed the accumulation of several pesticide residues in his system. After completely eliminating store-bought apples and switching to organic produce, David's test results returned to normal within 4 months. But the potential harm from apples is not limited to pesticides alone. Many imported apples, especially those available during winter and spring, are stored for 6 to 12 months in refrigerated chambers with a controlled atmosphere. To maintain their appearance and prevent loss of shine, they are often treated with substances such as diphenol, which prevents decay but can cause irritation of mucous membranes and allergic reactions. A study conducted by the University of North Carolina in 2022 showed that the amount of diphenol in apple peels can exceed acceptable limits by 2 to 3 times, particularly in fruit imported from abroad. General practitioner Jonathan Reeves from Minneapolis encountered a similar case. His 58-year-old patient, Lorene Foster, came in complaining of skin rashes, throat irritation, and an intense reaction to raw apples. After eliminating chemically treated apples from her diet and switching to seasonal fruit from a local farmer's market, her symptoms disappeared completely. To minimize the risks associated with pesticides and chemical treatments, it is recommended to choose organic apples labeled USDA organic, or to purchase fruit directly from local farmers, especially during the peak season from August through October. The best option is to grow apples yourself or buy them from people whose farming practices you trust. Before consumption, apples should not only be washed in cold water, but also soaked for 20 minutes in a solution of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon per 1 liter of water, followed by a thorough rinse. These steps can remove up to 80% of residual pesticides from the surface of the fruit. Additionally, it is advisable to avoid buying imported apples outside of the growing season. They are not only less nutritious, but also potentially hazardous due to extended storage and additional chemical treatments. Problem 2. Apples increase fermentation in the intestines, trigger heartburn, and can worsen gastritis. At first glance, apples seem like the perfect food, light, natural, and rich in fiber and vitamins. However, statistics from the past 5 years show a different picture. In the United States, more than 25 million people suffer from irritable bowel syndrome, According to the American Gastroenterological Association, apples are among the top 3 fruits most commonly associated with worsening symptoms in such patients. The reason lies in the high concentration of fructose and insoluble fiber, which actively interact with the gut microbiota in the large intestine, triggering excessive gas formation, rumbling, and cramping. This connection was confirmed by a study conducted by the Department of Gastroenterology at the University of Minnesota in the year 2022. 122 patients with diagnosed irritable bowel syndrome participated in the study. Each of them was given 1 raw apple per day for 2 weeks. By the 3rd day, 3 out of 5 participants began reporting significant bloating, painful pressure in the lower abdomen, and irregular bowel movements. Once apples were removed from their diets, the symptoms disappeared in most cases. This situation is well illustrated by a case from the practice of Dr. Leah Wallace, a gastroenterologist in Denver. She treated a 49-year-old nurse named Jennifer Mills, who had been eating a green apple every morning for a year in hopes of improving her health. Instead of the expected benefits, Jennifer began experiencing severe abdominal pain after meals and persistent bloating. At first, doctors suspected celiac disease, but the tests came back negative. It was only after raw apples were completely removed from her diet that the discomfort stopped, and her gut microbiota recovered within 2 months. But the problems associated with apples are not limited to the intestines. The issue of worsened gastritis and heartburn is especially common in people over 50 years old. The root of the problem lies in acidity. The pH of apples ranges from 3.3 to 3.9, which is already strong enough to irritate the stomach lining. Green varieties such as Granny Smith or Semarenko are especially harsh on sensitive stomachs. For individuals with gastritis or acid reflux, regular consumption of such apples can lead to increased secretion of stomach acid, which in turn causes heartburn, a burning sensation in the chest, and even nighttime episodes of pain. American gastroenterologist Dr. Andrew Harris from Cleveland observed a 63-year-old patient named Marilyn Stone. She had chronic gastritis and, following a friend's advice, began drinking lemon water on an empty stomach and eating a sour apple. After just 1 week, she started experiencing sharp pains and constant heartburn. An endoscopy revealed erosive changes in the stomach lining. After eliminating sour fruits and switching to a gentle diet, her condition stabilized within 3 weeks, and the pain fully subsided after 2 months. If you experience bloating, gas, or intestinal pain after eating apples, especially raw ones, it may be worth temporarily removing them from your diet and monitoring your body's response. For people with irritable bowel syndrome, baked apples without the peel can be a better option, as they lose some of their fructose content and become easier to digest. And if you have high stomach acidity, gastritis, or a tendency toward heartburn, it is best to avoid green apple varieties and never eat apples on an empty stomach. The healthiest choice is to consume them after a main meal, preferably cooked or baked, when the acidic impact on the stomach lining is significantly reduced. Problem 3. Apples are a source of oxalates, which can be harmful to kidney health. Each year, the number of Americans affected by kidney stones continues to rise. According to the 2023 report from the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases in the United States, 1 in 10 American adults has been diagnosed at some point in their life with nephrolysis, the formation of hard mineral deposits in the kidneys. In most cases, these deposits are primarily made up of calcium oxalate crystals. At first glance, it is hard to suspect apples of playing any role in this process, but the reality is that both the peel and the flesh of apples contain oxalates, naturally occurring organic acids that bind with calcium in the body and, under unfavorable conditions, form insoluble compounds. These compounds can accumulate in the kidneys and eventually form stones, especially in people who already have a predisposition or compromised kidney function. A study conducted by the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health in the year 2021 found that among individuals with recurring kidney stones, 41% had oxalate levels in their diets that exceeded the safe limit of 250 milligrams per day. Interestingly, in 19% of participants, the main source of oxalates was not spinach or nuts, as might be expected, but apples, specifically when consumed raw and daily. The highest levels were observed in those who did not peel the fruit. One of the most striking clinical examples was documented by Dr. Samuel Drake, a urologist in Atlanta. His patient, 57-year-old George Vincent, suffered from recurring nephrolithiasis and could not understand why. Despite following a proper diet and avoiding cola and chocolate, he continued to develop stones. It was later discovered that George was eating 2 apples with the peel every day, believing it to be a healthy habit. A detailed analysis of his diet and laboratory testing revealed chronically elevated oxalate levels. After reducing his apple intake, especially the peel, and adjusting his diet, the issue was brought under control and the formation of new deposits stopped. If you have a predisposition to kidney stones or have been diagnosed with nephrolithiasis, especially of the calcium oxalate type, it is important to consult your doctor about the appropriate amount of high oxalate foods for your specific case, including apples. In most situations, it is safer to limit intake to 1 small apple per day, with the peel removed. It is also advisable to pair apples with foods rich in calcium, as this can partially neutralize the oxalates in the digestive tract, preventing them from reaching the kidneys. And of course, maintaining proper hydration, at least 2 liters of clean water per day, remains the most important factor in preventing crystal formation in the kidneys. Problem 4. Apples can inhibit the absorption of iron and zinc. Today, more than 35 million people in the United States experience anemia or borderline iron deficiency. This condition is especially common among older adults over the age of 60 and women between the ages of 40 and 50. At the same time, the number of cases involving zinc deficiency is also rising. Zinc is a mineral essential for immune system function, wound healing, and hormonal balance. According to the 2023 report from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, 26% of elderly patients in long-term care clinics were found to have low levels of both iron and zinc in their blood. One increasingly discussed cause of these deficiencies is known as food interaction, when one food interferes with the body's ability to absorb nutrients from another. In this context, apples have unexpectedly come under scrutiny. It may seem unlikely that such a familiar and seemingly healthy fruit could be harmful in this way. But the answer lies in the fruit's chemical composition. Apples, especially when raw, are rich in polyphenols such as chlorogenic acid, as well as organic acids. These compounds can bind to iron and zinc ions, blocking their absorption in the intestines. A study conducted by the University of Illinois in the year 2021 found that participants who took iron supplements together with apples or apple juice experienced, on average, a 37% decrease in iron absorption in the small intestine compared to the control group, which took the same supplements without any accompanying food. The effect was most noticeable when consuming green apple varieties with a more pronounced acidity. Similar results were found in a study examining the effect of apples on zinc absorption. Researchers from the University of Georgia discovered that the polyphenols in apples can compete with zinc ions for binding with transport proteins in the intestinal wall. This effect is especially strong when apples are consumed alongside zinc-rich foods such as red meat, legumes, or shellfish. One real-life example was documented by Dr. Caroline Lawson, a primary care physician in Syracuse, New York. Her patient, 67-year-old Linda Martin, had been experiencing persistent fatigue, hair loss, and memory decline for 6 months. Blood tests revealed moderate anemia and a significant zinc deficiency. Linda's diet initially appeared well-balanced. She was taking iron supplements and regularly eating lean meats, nuts, and seafood. However, upon further questioning, it was discovered that she ended nearly every meal with an apple or a glass of apple juice. Once Dr. Lawson advised her to eat apples separately, at least 2 hours after meals, her blood levels of iron and zinc returned to normal within 2 months. To avoid disrupting the absorption of iron and zinc, especially if you are taking these nutrients in supplement form or trying to improve your levels through diet, it is best to avoid consuming apples for 2 hours before and after meals that are rich in these trace elements. You should also avoid eating apples with meat dishes, particularly red meat and seafood. The best time to enjoy apples is as a standalone snack between meals, ideally in the first half of the day. And if you are taking iron or zinc as a supplement, take them with plain water on an empty stomach, unless your doctor has instructed otherwise. This approach will help support proper absorption and reduce the risk of deficiencies in these essential nutrients. Problem 5. The danger of excess fiber from apples. when a healthy habit turns into a problem. In recent years, there has been a significant rise in interest across the United States in plant-based foods that are high in fiber. Doctors and dietitians are increasingly recommending whole vegetables, fruits, grains, and legumes, emphasizing their benefits for digestion, heart health, and blood sugar levels. However, statistics show that in the effort to eat right, some people swing too far in the other direction. According to data from the American College of Gastroenterology from the year 2023, 18% of patients who complained of constipation, bloating, and abdominal heaviness were found to be suffering not from a lack of fiber, but from an excess of it. In 1/3 of those cases, apples were identified as the main source of fiber. An average apple contains around 4 grams of fiber, which is approximately 15% of the recommended daily intake for an adult. At the same time, many Americans, especially older adults, eat 3 to 5 apples a day, believing them to be the perfect light snack. But not everyone knows that fiber, both soluble and insoluble, must be accompanied by a sufficient amount of liquid. Without enough water, dietary fiber begins to build up in the intestines, loses mobility, and can actually cause constipation, bloating, and in severe cases, even bowel obstruction. A study published in 2021 by Johns Hopkins University confirmed this risk. As part of a monitoring program for people over the age of 50, researchers found that in patients who consumed more than 25 grams of fiber per day without maintaining proper hydration, the likelihood of developing functional constipation doubled. Apples, as the most accessible and popular source of fiber, were a key focus of the study. One alarming case was reported by St. Joseph's Hospital in Phoenix. Dr. Stephen Riddle, a gastrointestinal surgeon, treated a 60-year-old man named Ralph Benson. Ralph had been suffering from intense abdominal pain, bloating, and had been unable to have a bowel movement for 5 days. A computed tomography scan revealed a massive buildup of fiber in the sigmoid colon. Upon further questioning, it was discovered that Ralph had been eating 6 apples every day for 2 months, thinking it would help him control his weight and cholesterol levels. However, he was drinking almost no water. As a result, he required hospitalization, enemas, and a course of intravenous therapy to restore normal bowel function. Apples are indeed beneficial, but even with a healthy product, moderation is important. If you are eating more than 2 apples a day, especially with the peel, make sure you are drinking at least 2 liters of clean water daily. This is essential for fiber to function properly in the digestive system and not turn into a dense mass that causes blockages. Avoid eating apples dry or using them as a substitute for water. It is also a good idea to alternate apples with other sources of fiber, such as cooked vegetables or oatmeal, which are gentler on the digestive system. Most importantly, listen to your body. If you experience discomfort, heaviness, or constipation after increasing your apple intake, it is a clear signal that you should reconsider your diet and reduce the amount of fiber you are consuming. Problem 6. Apples as a hidden carbohydrate threat in type 2 diabetes and the trap of sweet juices. Type 2 diabetes is one of the fastest growing chronic conditions in the United States. According to the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, more than 40 million American adults were diagnosed with this condition in the year 2023, and an additional 9 million people are believed to be unaware that they are already in a pre-diabetic state. Many of them try to improve their lifestyle by adding more fruit to their diet, and this is where one of the most dangerous misconceptions begins: the belief that apples are completely safe. In reality, one medium apple contains about 19 grams of sugar. Nearly half of that is fructose, a type of sugar that is metabolized in the liver and, when consumed frequently, can contribute to increased triglyceride levels and insulin resistance. Even though these sugars are naturally occurring, the body of someone with impaired insulin sensitivity processes them as a glucose load. A study conducted by the Center for Metabolic Research at Ohio State University in the year 2022 showed that patients with type 2 diabetes who consumed 2 apples daily for 3 weeks experienced, on average, a 7% increase in fasting blood glucose levels. In contrast, participants who replaced apples with berries that have a low glycemic index, such as blueberries and blackberries, saw their blood glucose levels drop by 4%. This confirms an important point. Not all fruits are equally safe for individuals with diabetes, And unfortunately, apples are not always on the side of health. A clinical case was documented at an endocrinology clinic in Seattle. A 61-year-old patient named Thomas West had been carefully following a diet for an entire year, avoiding sweets and increasing physical activity, yet his blood glucose level remained above 140 milligrams per deciliter. During consultation, it was discovered that he had replaced desserts with fruit, drinking a glass of unsweetened apple juice daily and eating 1 or 2 apples. After he was advised to completely eliminate juices and limit apple intake to 2 or 3 per week, replacing them with a handful of berries, his blood glucose level dropped to 110 milligrams per deciliter within just 1 month. It is especially important to highlight how deceptive even natural apple juices can be. 1 glass of such juice, 250 milliliters, can contain as much as 25 grams of sugar, which is the same amount found in a can of soda. Unlike soda, however, juice is perceived as a healthy option. But during the juicing process, fiber is removed and the sugar becomes more concentrated. In its liquid form, it is absorbed quickly and causes a rapid spike in blood glucose levels. That is why juices, even natural ones, are particularly risky for people with diabetes. A study by Tufts University in the year 2021 showed that patients who regularly consumed fruit juices experienced an average increase of 0.4% in their glycated hemoglobin levels, a key indicator of blood sugar control over the past 3 months, even when following all other dietary recommendations. This rise was especially noticeable in patients over the age of 60. If you have been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, it is essential to be cautious with apple consumption. Do not eat apples on an empty stomach. Do not combine them with other carbohydrates, and limit yourself to half or 1 apple per day. It is better to choose berries with a low glycemic index, such as blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, or cranberries. Most importantly, completely avoid apple juice even if it is labeled as having no added sugar. Juice lacks fiber and causes a sharp increase in blood sugar. Apples are best consumed whole and only as part of a main meal to reduce the glycemic impact. It is also helpful to monitor your blood glucose level after eating apples using a glucometer, so you can understand how your body responds individually. Problem 7. Apple seeds, a quiet danger hidden in the heart of the fruit. When people eat apples, they rarely think about the seeds. Most either swallow them by accident or do not see a reason to remove them. However, few are aware that inside these tiny black seeds is a compound that, under certain conditions, can pose a serious threat to the human body. According to a 2022 analytical review published by the American College of Clinical Toxicology, apple seeds contain a substance called amygdalin. In the human stomach, amygdalin can react with digestive enzymes and convert into a compound known as hydrocyanic acid, a form of cyanide. Cyanides block oxygen from reaching cells, disrupting the function of vital organs, especially the brain and heart. While accidentally swallowing 1 or 2 seeds is generally safe and causes no noticeable effects, regularly chewing or consuming a large number of them may lead to a buildup of toxic compounds in the body. A study conducted by the Toxicology Department at the University of Northern Colorado in the year 2021 found that consuming 100 grams of crushed apple seeds, the approximate amount found in 30 to 40 apples, can result in cyanide levels reaching as high as 700 milligrams. This exceeds safe limits by several times. Children and elderly individuals are especially at risk, as their enzyme systems are less stable and their ability to neutralize toxins is reduced. A case documented by Dr. Daniela Hughes from the Toxicology Center at St. Mary's Hospital in Rochester serves as a clear warning. A 68-year-old man had been making himself a morning smoothie every day, blending in a whole apple, including the seeds. After 2 months, he began experiencing fatigue, dizziness, irregular heartbeat, and shortness of breath. Initially, doctors suspected a cardiovascular issue, but a toxicology analysis revealed elevated levels of cyanide compounds. Once the seeds were removed from his diet, the symptoms disappeared within 2 weeks, and his condition stabilized. It is important to understand that apple seeds are not food. Their biological purpose is to grow a new plant, not to be eaten. Some enthusiasts claim that amygdalin has health benefits or even healing properties, but to date, no official American medical or scientific institution has confirmed the safety of regularly consuming apple seeds. When eating apples, always remove the seeds, especially if you are serving the fruit to children, elderly individuals, or using it in a blended form, such as in purees, smoothies, or baked dishes. Never eat whole apples with the seeds, especially in large quantities. If you accidentally swallow 1 or 2 seeds, there is no need to panic, but making a habit of chewing them can lead to the accumulation of harmful substances. For good health, it is enough to enjoy the flesh of the apple. It contains all the essential vitamins and minerals without any unnecessary risk. Problem 8. Underripe green apples. How starch can turn a fruit into heavy food. In the modern diet of older Americans, apples remain one of the most frequently consumed fruits. They are easy to find in any supermarket, store well for long periods, and at first glance seem like a perfect choice. Low in calories, crunchy, and nutritious. But recent statistics reveal an unexpected trend. More than 22% of patients over the age of 60 who visited gastroenterologists with complaints of stomach heaviness were regular consumers of underripe green apples. The issue lies in the chemical makeup of an unripe apple. Before it fully ripens, most of the apple's carbohydrates exist in the form of resistant starch. This type of starch is highly resistant to digestion in the upper gastrointestinal tract, especially in people with low stomach acid or slower digestive system motility. As people age, the body naturally loses some of its ability to break down complex carbohydrates. As a result, an underripe apple, instead of being easily digested, can lead to sensations of heaviness, bloating, fermentation, and even nausea. A study conducted by Baylor College of Medicine in Texas in the year 2022 confirmed these findings. As part of a digestive health monitoring program for patients over the age of 65, researchers found that eating 1 underripe green apple, high in starch content, caused discomfort and delayed gastric emptying in 43% of participants. At the same time, ripe red apple varieties did not trigger such reactions. Dr. Carlos Mendoza, a gastroenterologist from San Diego, described one such case from his medical practice. His 73-year-old patient, Nancy Blake, had been experiencing a persistent feeling of fullness after meals and occasional nausea for several months. After reviewing her food diary, the doctor noticed that she consistently ate green Granny Smith apples as a snack. Once she switched to ripe apple varieties and removed underripe ones from her diet, all her symptoms disappeared without the need for any additional treatment. One important point to understand is that underripe apples often end up on store shelves. They are picked early to extend shelf life and prevent spoilage during transport. These fruits may look appealing, shiny skin, firm texture, and a pleasant aroma, but inside, the process of converting starch into simple sugars is not yet complete. To avoid digestive problems, especially as you get older, it is best to choose only fully ripe apples. This means the fruit should feel slightly softer to the touch, have an even color, and not be overly hard or sharply sour in taste. If possible, bite a small piece to check the flavor. If the texture is mealy, dense, and only slightly sweet, the apple is probably still underripe. Choose more mature varieties such as Fuji, Gala, Red Delicious, or Honeycrisp. And if you notice that apples are difficult to digest, try baking them at a temperature of about 180 degrees Celsius, approximately 356 degrees Fahrenheit. Heat will help break down some of the starch, making the fruit softer and easier on the stomach. Problem 9. The apple mono diet, a hidden threat to muscles, energy, and metabolism. In recent years, there has been a sharp rise in interest across the United States in so-called detox diets and short-term body cleanses, which are heavily promoted on social media and wellness blogs. One of the most popular approaches in this trend is the apple mono diet, where a person eats only apples and drinks water for 3, 5, or even 7 days. It may appear harmless, a natural fruit, low in calories, high in fiber. But behind this apparent simplicity lies a serious risk. According to a 2023 report published by the University of Southern California, more than 16% of Americans between the ages of 25 and 45 follow some form of fruit or vegetable mono diet at least once a year. Apples are most often chosen as the base due to their accessibility, familiar taste, and the widespread myth of a fruit cleanse. However, after just 2 days on such a diet, the body begins to experience an acute deficiency of protein and fats, two essential macronutrients needed to maintain immune function, hormone synthesis, brain stability, and muscle tone. A study conducted by the Institute of Sports Medicine at the University of Wisconsin found that after 72 hours on an apple-only mono diet, which provides about 1,200 kilocalories per day, participants experienced an 11% drop in total plasma protein levels. At the same time, they reported dizziness, irritability, fatigue, and decreased ability to concentrate. Although weight loss did occur, it was primarily due to water loss and muscle breakdown, not fat reduction as many had hoped. One clinical case was documented by Dr. Julia Spencer, a family physician in Boise, Idaho. A 34-year-old woman named Courtney Blake came to her complaining of constant weakness, cold hands, lack of focus, and sudden dizziness. She had just completed a 5-day apple detox program that she read about on a fitness blog. Over those 5 days, she lost 3 kilograms, but at the same time, her blood albumin level dropped to a critical point, and her energy levels were nearly depleted. The doctor diagnosed her with protein energy deficiency and impaired thermoregulation. Courtney needed a 1-month recovery program that included the reintroduction of proteins, healthy fats, and B group vitamins to restore normal brain and muscle function. The most deceptive aspect of the apple diet is the illusion of health benefits: clearer skin, weight loss, and regular bowel movements. But without adequate protein, the body is forced to break down its own muscle tissue, including cardiac muscle. A lack of fats also disrupts the hormonal system and impairs the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. This diet is particularly risky for women over the age of 45, whose hormonal balance already requires careful support. You should never build your diet around just one food, even if it seems extremely healthy. Apples can be a great part of a breakfast or a light snack, but they cannot provide complete proteins, essential fats, or a full range of necessary vitamins. Instead of relying on mono diets, follow a balanced nutrition strategy that includes complex carbohydrates, high-quality proteins such as eggs, legumes, and fish, healthy fats like olive oil, avocado, and nuts and vegetables. If you are looking to do a cleansing or low-intake day, do it under the guidance of a registered dietitian, and be sure to include a variety of foods that supply your body with everything it needs. Problem 10. Apples and an unexpected threat: how they increase appetite and damage tooth enamel. Many people view apples as a universal and completely safe food. They are often used in weight loss diets or simply as a healthy snack. However, recent studies and clinical observations by American doctors increasingly show that in certain situations, apples may not only fail to support weight loss, they can actually interfere with it and cause harm to dental health at the same time. According to data from the United States National Institute on Aging and Nutrition, in the year 2023, 48% of individuals trying to lose weight reported a return of hunger within the first hour after eating fruit. This was especially common after eating apples. The reason lies in how the body processes simple sugars. The fructose and glucose found in apples are digested within 20 to 30 minutes, causing a quick but short-lived spike in both energy and insulin levels. After about an hour, that effect wears off, and a person may feel even hungrier than before the snack. This was confirmed by research conducted in 2021 as part of the Satiety and Appetite Control Project at Tufts University. In one study, 100 participants were given an apple, a banana, or yogurt with nuts as a morning snack. After 60 minutes, 82% of those who ate the apple reported feeling hungry again, compared to only 39% of those who had yogurt with almonds. Furthermore, during their next meal, the apple group consumed on average 21% more calories than the other groups. A real-life case was described by endocrinologist Dr. Jason Craig from Philadelphia. His patient, a 46-year-old woman named Kimberly Stanton, had been trying to lose weight by replacing breakfast with 1 or 2 green apples. Despite her efforts, she was not losing any weight and often craved sweets by evening. After reviewing her eating habits, it became clear that the sugar spikes from the morning apples were triggering increased appetite later in the day. Once she switched to more balanced meals that included protein and fats, her weight began to decrease without the return of hunger. The second issue involves dental health, something even health-conscious individuals often overlook. Apples have a pH ranging from 3.3 to 3.9, which is comparable to orange juice or soda. This level of acidity can gradually erode tooth enamel, especially when apples are eaten frequently between meals. Over time, this can lead to increased tooth sensitivity, darkening of enamel, and eventually tooth decay. In 2022, the Academy of General Dentistry in the United States published a report listing apples as a food with hidden acid erosion potential. Laboratory experiments showed that the effect of malic acid from daily apple consumption on tooth enamel could be comparable to that of drinking soda regularly. The risk increases if a person eats apples slowly over a long period and does not rinse their mouth with water afterward. Such cases are becoming more common in dental practice. Dr. Ashley Campbell, a dentist from Chicago, shared the story of a 52-year-old male patient who switched to daily apple snacks at his office. After 6 months, he began experiencing painful sensitivity to cold water and toothbrushes. Examination revealed early signs of enamel demineralization on his front teeth. The solution was to adjust his diet and introduce a simple rule: eat apples only during main meals and rinse the mouth with water afterward. To avoid unwanted increases in appetite, do not eat apples alone, especially on an empty stomach. Combine them with proteins or healthy fats. Add a handful of nuts, a spoonful of peanut butter, or a serving of plain yogurt. This kind of snack will prevent rapid spikes and crashes in blood sugar and help maintain satiety for longer. As for dental care, it is better to eat apples as part of a full meal rather than between meals. After eating fruit, always rinse your mouth with plain water and avoid brushing your teeth immediately. Wait at least 30 minutes to prevent damaging the enamel, which may have been softened by the acid. Next, I recommend checking out these videos, and don't forget to leave your likes and comments. I'm looking forward to them.